I've done this 1,000 times.
No. The transition. This doesn't make sense.
This feels forced.
People are definitely going to notice this.
This is taking so long.
Okay, now you're overthinking.
You've already said everything you have to say.
So start over.
No.
It's not a diet.
You should know how to do this by
Now
now.
you get this right the first time.
It's way too complex, too simple.
Of
Nobody
all
wants
of the skills that I've acquired over the past 16 years of teaching yoga, the one that I value the most out of everything else is the ability to tolerate making things that are really bad. Because honestly, I still make things that make me question myself whether or not I should even be teaching yoga in the first place. And when your career is built around creating experiences for other people, that can be a difficult thing to accept. Take yoga classes, for example. Most of them, they begin a little bit rough around the edges. The transitions often feel a little bit awkward. The pacing is sometimes off. The ideas, they don't fully connect yet, probably because they're not fully fleshed out in my mind. And every Monday, there's still a part of me that thinks, after all of these years of doing this, shouldn't this be easier by now? But I've started to notice something. Most people assume that experience removes the uncertainty. That eventually, if you spend enough time doing something over and over again, you arrive at some point where eventually everything feels completely natural, just confident and effortless. But I'm not sure if that's true. And I'm well past my 10,000 hours of practice teaching, according to Malcolm Gladwell. And still, there are Mondays, like last Monday, where I walk into a class wondering if I completely lost it, if I have no more ideas. But what experience has given me is not certainty. It's that I now think I have a greater tolerance for being in that uncomfortable space between creating something and knowing whether or not it's good. And honestly, I think that might actually be what mastery is. Not the absence of doubt, definitely not perfection, but the ability to keep moving forward without needing constant reassurance. Because most meaningful things in life, they don't arrive fully formed. They oftentimes begin a little bit awkward and oftentimes incomplete. And I think that's one of the biggest problems in modern life. It's that we've lost our tolerance for that stage of the process. The moment that something feels uncomfortable or imperfect, we assume that something is missing. But if there's anything that I've learned from teaching tens of thousands of classes, it's that the good stuff usually comes with a little bit work and it comes a little bit later. Confidence comes later, clarity comes later. Most things only start to become good after you move through the part that makes you question them a little. And maybe that's the real cost of constantly craving immediate results with everything. We don't give things time to age, like wine. We want immediate confirmation, immediate results, immediate next steps. And when something doesn't provide that, we assume that it's wrong. A relationship that feels awkward in the beginning, or a friendship, maybe we're just incompatible. Maybe we're not supposed to be friends. A creative project that feels a little bit, lazy. Maybe I'm not talented. A practice that I'm doing feels a little bit boring. Maybe it's not meant for me. But I don't think that this is entirely our fault. We've kind of been conditioned to expect smoothness, right? Apps remove waiting. Algorithms remove friction. Entertainment removes boredom. Netflix removes waiting in line at the movie theater. Everything is optimized to keep us comfortable, keep us efficient, keep us in this level of certainty, or what we think is certainty. So when something does require patience or repetition or discomfort, it almost feels unnatural now, like something must be broken. But growth has always been inefficient. Relationships should be a little inefficient. Creativity should be a little inefficient. Learning is inefficient. Even meaningful conversations should be a little inefficient. They take time. And honestly, this is what I experience every single week teaching yoga. Monday mornings, I usually wake up around 4 a.m. and I begin building my class for the week. And most of the time, my first draft is not very good, or I'm at least not very confident with it. The transitions, like I said, feel forced. The sequence may be a little bit scattered. I'm playing around with too many ideas. The theme of the class is slightly unclear. but I teach it anyway. I teach it at 6 a.m. I teach it again at 9 a.m. And then I go home and I think about it. I think about what didn't work, what I do different, and then I adjust things and I remove things and I rearrange pieces of the sequence. And I clarify some parts that might have been a little bit off. And then Tuesday comes and I teach it again. It's better, but it's definitely not great. But then usually by Wednesday, something starts to happen. The class begins to breathe a little bit, feel a little more spacious. The ideas, they connect a bit more naturally. The awkwardness of the sequence often softens by then. And then Thursday comes and Friday comes, and I often find myself teaching the exact same class that I doubted at the beginning of the week and honestly coming to love it. And I trust it more and I feel proud of it. And I think that process has taught me something important, that most meaningful things, they don't reveal themselves immediately. Sometimes they need repetition and attention and patience. Sometimes they need time for their deeper shape to emerge. And maybe that's what maturity actually teaches you. Not how to avoid uncomfortable stages, but how to recognize them without panicking. To understand that awkwardness is not always a sign that something is failing. Sometimes it's a sign that something's still becoming, that something's growing. And maybe that's why teaching has taught me so much about life. Because when I build a class, I really only have a few options. I can add something that feels missing, I can remove something that feels excessive, or leave it alone and give it more time. And honestly, life doesn't feel that much different. Maybe that's part of growing older. You stop expecting certainty all the time. You stop interpreting awkwardness or strangeness as failure. And you begin to understand that a lot of meaningful things take time and they need the space and the breath to fully make sense. So next Monday, I'll probably wake up again at 4 a.m. I'll build another sequence. I'll question half of it. I'll teach it anyway. I'll adjust it throughout the week. And somewhere around Thursday, I'll probably remember that this uncomfortable part of the process was definitely never the problem. It was just the beginning of something still taking shape. And I hope that whatever it is that you're working on in your own life, you can enjoy that awkwardness, you can enjoy that discomfort, and you can continue to give yourself the space to grow. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the very next video.